Elizabeth Taylor, Evita Peron, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, Princess Grace of Monaco, and Diana, Princess of Wales. In an age in which anyone can be a celebrity for 15 minutes, why have these five become legendary figures of glamour and fascination? Because their lives mirror our favorite fairy tales. Five great ladies, five legends in love. When the tally is taken for Hollywood's Triple Crown, it will certainly go to Elizabeth Taylor for most beautiful, most talented, most husbands.
Well, I have had everything. I've had my share of joy, pain, luck, rough times. I've had a dose of it all. I've been back and forth like a yo-yo.
Honeymoon number one with hotel heir Nicky Hilton in 1950.
About a week. It was just wonderful. We had such a gay time. We love Europe.
In 1952, British-born Liz married British leading man Michael Wilding. 5 years later, the honeymoon was over. In 1957, Elizabeth married the brilliant producer-showman Michael Todd. In 58, a plane crash took Mike's life and ended their excellent marriage. Liz then married singer Eddie Fisher, won her first Best Actress Oscar for Butterfield 8, and prepared to star in Cleopatra. Her co-star, Richard Burton, became husband number 5. Liz and Richard became the most popular couple on earth. In 1976, Elizabeth married Senator John Warner. She traveled the world as Washington's most dazzling representative until they divorced in 1982. Her best marriage? She said being with Mike Todd, there was a joy, a vitality that was contagious. He said upon winning an Academy Award, "I have the two best things, Elizabeth and Oscar." His tragic death stunned the 26-year-old Elizabeth. She had skipped the trip because of illness. She said this was the greatest tragedy of her life.
Well, at the time it happened, of course, Mike's death. We'd only had 13 months together, and I loved him with my life, and had a 6-month-old baby. And I never thought I'd love again.
But she would, and what high drama it would be. In 1960, Liz received $1 million to star in Cleopatra, a record fee for that time. Her marriage to Fisher was fading. Her health was failing, and there were rumors of romance with Richard Burton, who would play Mark Antony opposite Elizabeth's Cleopatra. She became deathly ill from the Asian flu. A tracheotomy was performed to keep her alive. The real-life drama of Elizabeth Taylor's struggle to live captured the world's attention. Her return to health found her public admiring her courage as much as her talent and beauty. She returned to Rome with Eddie Fisher to complete the filming of what had now become the $40 million epic, Cleopatra. And the Richard Burton rumors turned to romance. Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, Cleopatra and Mark Antony. The press and paparazzi surrounded them. Elizabeth and Richard would marry in 1964, divorce in 74, remarry in 75, and divorce again in 1976. When they starred in Private Lives together in 1983, reporters asked if they were still in love.
Next question.
We have great affection for each other. And this, by the way, is a conference about the play called Private Lives. It's not about our private lives.
And how did Liz feel about working with Richard again?
Well, I think he's one of the finest actors.
One of the finest.
Sorry. Of this century, certainly that I've seen. I'm not that old. And he's a joy to work with.
After Richard's death in 1984, Elizabeth Taylor visited with his family in Wales. They were also her family. She had said 20 years before, "Richard has given me a sense of reality. I am now above and beyond anything else, a woman, and that's infinitely more satisfying than being an actress." Richard Burton and Michael Todd, two wonderful partners. Would she marry again?
Knowing myself, I really am addicted. Knowing myself, I'm sure that one day, I don't know when, but before I die, I'm sure I'll marry once more.
Evita, Eva Peron, a legend in her time and in our time. 30 years after her death, Evita vividly came to life on Broadway. Once again, millions felt her power, this time through the brilliant performance of Patti LuPone. But even Patti couldn't solve the puzzle of Evita, who at age 33 when she died, was the most powerful woman on earth.
I did a lot of research in the pictures to try to understand the woman, because the only thing what is written about her are just people's impressions. They're generally the same, but when she had a chance to defend herself, she wrote Peronist propaganda. Nothing about herself, all about Juan Perón. So I looked at the photographs to try to understand the woman. There are 2 or 3 expressions when she was in power. There are some that are just so cold, and her eyes appear to be dead. And I would think that she's at her height of calculation in those pictures.
In the 1970s, young Argentinians cried for Evita 2 decades after her death. Her body, hidden in Europe for 16 years, had finally been returned to Argentina. Her husband, Juan Perón, after 18 years in exile, had been returned to power. What was the magic of the blonde goddess in diamonds and furs who hypnotized a nation from her grave? She was born Eva Duarte in 1919, poor and illegitimate. At 15, she ran away to Buenos Aires, where she worked as a model, and first won fame as the star of a Palmolive soap radio show. She met Juan Perón in 1943, winning his support for a radio workers' union. He helped her become a motion picture star. Soon Perón gave her a better part to play as his partner on the road to the presidency. Evita would be Perón's connection to the poor. She had been one of them. When Perón became vice president with strong support from the workers, his fellow officers, wary of Perón's ambition, had him imprisoned. Evita saved the day, rallying 500,000 workers demanding that Perón be freed. Perón was released, a hero de los descamisados, the shirtless ones, as Evita called them. They were married a few days later. He was 50, she was 26. Perón was an easy victor in the 1945 presidential election. While his first lady continued to charm the poor, Perón controlled the press and all free expression. Evita told him, "If, as you say, the cause of the people is your own cause, however great the sacrifice, I will never leave your side until I die." Her words would prove chillingly prophetic. Evita distributed food, medicine, and money to orphanages, maternity homes, and housing developments. She referred to herself as a symbol of the opportunities of the country, but failed to mention her growing Swiss bank accounts. She told the poor, "I once had nothing. You too can have these things someday." They blew kisses in return and called her Blessed One and Little Madonna. "What we are fighting for," she said, is to destroy the inequality between you and the wives of your bosses. In 1947, Argentinians elevated her to near sainthood when they learned their Evita had been invited to receive great honors in Spain. She told them, "I go as a representative of my beloved descamisados, with whom, in going, I leave my heart." The trip became known as the Rainbow Tour after Evita announced, "I come as a rainbow between our two countries." In Spain, as in Argentina, nicknames are reserved for very close friends, but she encouraged everyone to call her Evita. They did, and they loved her. For 17 days, Evita called Juan every evening, and every night she sent him a package of pictures taken of her that day. They had never been apart for so long, and they both felt the loneliness that goes hand in hand with power. In Madrid, the massive crowds heard Generalissimo Francisco Franco say, "Wishing to give proof of my esteem to Donna Maria Eva Duarte de Perón, I hereby grant her the Grand Cross of the Order of Isabel the Catholic. It was a supreme honor." In France, she triumphed over the language barrier. She also presided over a $120 million loan from Argentina to France, with the money to be spent by France for wheat and beef from Argentine farmers. At the Vatican, she covered her elaborate coils of blonde hair with a delicate black lace mantilla. She wore just one piece of jewelry, the magnificent Cross of Isabel Franco had given to her. The Pope personally presented her with a rosary and thanked her for her work among the poor. Evita returned to Argentina, a world-famous figure. Presidents of Spain and France had kissed her hand. Now newspapers and magazines around the globe told and retold the rags-to-riches story of the illegitimate farm girl from the Pampas and the great dictator, who together had become the most talked-about couple in the world. The key to their success? Perhaps the New Yorker magazine best solved the puzzle when Philip Hamburger wrote, "Love makes the Peróns go round. Their whole act is based on it. They are constantly, passionately, nationally in love. They conduct their affair with the people quite openly, their love settling like a soft blanket, providing warmth and protection." At 32, Evita was sitting on top of the world. It was her last year. Stricken by cancer, too weak to stand without his help, she campaigned for his re-election. She cast her final vote from a ballot box brought to her deathbed. Evita died on July 26, 1952. Her body was embalmed to be preserved forever, but the corpse would quickly disappear for 16 years. The funeral was a world event. 16 people were crushed to death by the throngs. 4,000 more were taken to city hospitals. Buenos Aires was closed except for the florists, who all ran out of flowers. The mourners remembered her final words. With pain agonizing through her body, she had told them, "My beloved descamisados, with all my soul I have desired to be with you and Perón. I give thanks to you, my general, who have taught me to know you and love you. If the people asked for my life, I would give it singing, because the happiness of one descamisados is worth more than my life." Evita's power was still in evidence 2 decades later, when with his new wife, Isabella, Perón returned to office. He was 77 years old, still a remarkable presence. In fact, Isabella had been elected vice president in his landslide victory. But how many had voted for the memory of Evita? The shirtless ones had torn down or damaged campaign posters of Isabella. They could not accept another woman with Perón, only Evita. They created their own posters, and for them, Evita was alive. Perón would die 9 months later. Isabella would become president, but Evita remained in power and still does. This was the scene as the body of Donna Maria Eva Duarte de Perón was finally returned to Argentina in 1972. For years, the people of Argentina had demanded, "Where is Evita Perón? Give us back the body of the beloved senora." The generals had resisted, afraid that Evita's body resting in Argentina would become the center of a Perón cult. The body had been hidden most of those years in Masacco Cemetery in Milan, Italy, under the name of Maria Maggi, in Lot 86, Garden 41. Now, Evita would be buried again, this time in the Duarte tomb in Recoleta Cemetery in Buenos Aires on October 22nd, 1976. The faithful return every year to remember Evita and to tell her story to the next generation. In 1971, when the body was exhumed, the official report noted, "It is remarkably well preserved, without the least disorder in her coiffure." As the embalmer had promised Perón in 1955, while the general openly wept at the coffin, Evita would remain eternal. As First Lady of the United States, Jacqueline Kennedy's dignity, intelligence, and thoughtfulness translated into goodwill for America throughout the world.
One of the Kennedys does not need an interpreter, so I'd like to have my wife say just a word to you.
Vivir recientemente y recibir enseñanza. Estas cosas deberían estar al alcance de todos y no limitarse a unos pocos afortunados.
Jacqueline Bouvier was born to social position and nurtured on good taste. Her dashing father was a Wall Street stockbroker. Their family roots traced back to the Bouviers, who came to America with Lafayette to fight in the Revolutionary War. The roots of her husband-to-be, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, reached back to the potato farmers of Ireland. But his parents climbed the ladder to success and had great ambition for their children. Jack was not studious. At Harvard, he focused on football, swimming, and pretty girls. In 1952, Jackie became the inquiring camera girl for the Washington Times-Herald and interviewed the young Congressman Kennedy from Massachusetts. They soon began to see more of each other. For the soft-spoken Jackie Bouvier, it was an experience getting to know the Kennedys, an exuberant, playful group. But she quickly fit in, especially with Jack. They announced they would wed at her mother's Rhode Island estate in September of 1953. John Fitzgerald Kennedy was 36, Jacqueline Bouvier 24. They were attended by 14 ushers, 10 bridesmaids, and 800 special guests. Jack's mother, Rose, remembered, "Jackie must have got a little tired smiling and shaking hands, but I can't think of a more appropriate introduction to her new life." In their first Washington home, Jackie set up a sanctuary away from the pressures of politics. Baby Caroline and later John Jr. became the most important part of her life.
How do you do? I'm glad you had a chance to see something of the Senate, and now to see our house where we've lived a year, and since Caroline was born. And I look forward to meeting all of you this fall as soon as the Senate is out, and we'll be back in Massachusetts.
Say goodbye to Caroline.
Caroline's birth in 1957 had been a special source of happiness for Jackie. Her father had died that same year. Although the demands of the White House were great, as First Lady, she never failed to find time for her family.
I think it doesn't matter what else you do if you don't do that part well, if you fail your husband and your children. That really is the role which means the most to me, though obviously I have a deep sense of obligation for the others, but that's the one that comes first.
She was an exquisite First Lady who in every sense of the word gave the White House a lift. She made 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue a center for the arts. Jackie would never match the Kennedy skills at football, but she did master the art of handing off a handbag to an attending Marine. Much has been written about other women in President Kennedy's life, but in public, even in off-guard moments, the Kennedys seemed very much in love. Home at Hyannis was private, however, a chance for John Jr. and Caroline to know him as a father. Jackie wrote a poem about Jack shortly after their marriage. It read in part, "He would find love, he would never find peace, for he must go seeking the golden fleece. All of the things he was going to be, all of the things in the wind and the sea." We lost our president, Jackie, her husband, Caroline and John Jr., their father. The feeling of sorrow was universal.
I want to take this opportunity to express my appreciation for the hundreds of thousands of messages, nearly 800,000 in all, which my children and I have received over the past few weeks. The knowledge of the affection in which my husband was held by all of you has sustained me, and the warmth of these tributes is something I shall never forget. Whenever I can bear to, I read them. All his bright light gone from the world. All of you who have written to me know how much we all loved him, and that he returned that love in full measure.
In 1968, Jacqueline Kennedy traveled to Greece to become Mrs. Aristotle Onassis, wife of one of the richest men on earth. Many asked, "Jackie, how could you?" He was 68 and celebrated mostly for his wealth. The years have explained. It was just 4 months after the second assassination, the murder of her brother-in-law, Robert Kennedy. Bobby was her closest male friend, advisor to Jackie and her children, their confidant. She was desperate for safety, for security. Onassis provided both. They were married on Ari's private island, Scorpios, in the Ionian Sea. It was October 20th, 1968. For 7 years, whenever they left their private world, the press appeared, immediately, anywhere and everywhere. But Jackie kept the children private and protected. After Ari's death in 1975, Jackie said, "Aristotle Onassis rescued me at a moment when my life was engulfed with shadows. He meant a lot to me. We lived through many beautiful experiences together which cannot be forgotten, and for that, I am extremely grateful.
Be strong and of good courage. Be not afraid.
1979, the opening of the John Fitzgerald Kennedy Library.
Is our need today, and we can have faith in the future.
The Kennedy children were reaching adulthood.
Welcome to the dedication of this library.
John Jr. read from a poem which he said captured the spirit of his father.
Born of the sun, they traveled a short while towards the sun, and left the vivid air signed with their honor. Thank you.
Caroline's wedding to Edwin Schlossberg in 1986 made the 60s seem like ancient times, as did John Jr.'s appearance at the 1988 Democratic Convention.
Over a quarter century ago, my father stood before you to accept the nomination for the presidency of the United States.
In 1989, John Kennedy Jr. became an assistant district attorney in New York. Jackie's pride in her children had been earned, and the 1,000 days of Camelot would never be forgotten.
The award for the best performance by an actress, Grace Kelly for The Country Girl.
The thrill of this moment keeps me from saying what I really feel. I can only say thank you with all my heart to all who made this possible for me.
Grace Kelly, the all-American movie star who became the Princess of Monaco. In 1966, she brought American Week to her new country and made it a great success. Princess Grace devoted 25 years of her life to her marriage, her family, and to Monaco, which prospered both culturally and commercially during her reign. Grace brought America along with her when she left Hollywood behind. But her best friends always wondered if she still missed the magic of the movies.
Of course, I loved working in films. I loved acting. But I also love my present life now, so it's, one has to choose.
At 10 in the morning on Monday, September 13th, 1982, Princess Grace, while driving down a mountain road in Monaco, missed the bend and plummeted 120 feet to her death. The world wept for the Oscar-winning actress and gracious princess. A citizen outside the chapel remarked, "Monaco was empty before she came, and now it's empty again." Grace Kelly described herself as a shy little girl. She was educated in a convent school. Her playwright uncle persuaded her to give acting a try. While studying acting, she became a successful model and worked in TV commercials. She zoomed to success in Hollywood. She could pick and choose from the best scripts and co-stars. Her sudden announcement that she would give it all up to marry Renier took everyone, including the prince, by surprise.
Miss Kelly, how do you feel on this occasion?
Well, needless to say, I'm very, very happy.
Miss Kelly, when is the wedding going to be?
We haven't planned the exact date as
You
yet.
haven't made any plans
It will be after Easter.
Your Highness, when you arrived aboard ship, this is the very thing that you denied. Were you being cautious, or didn't you know about it at the time?
No, I was very sincere. I didn't know a thing about it.
This is a surprise to you, then?
Yes, as much as it is to you, I suppose.
Miss Kelly, and is it a surprise to you, Miss Kelly?
Yes.
Miss Kelly, are you going to live in Monaco?
Yes.
They met as a publicity stunt at the Cannes Film Festival in the summer of '55. Grace later said she was taken by his direct simplicity. He said he couldn't get her off his mind. He didn't see her again till Christmas, but within 2 days, the Prince of Monaco proposed, and she said yes. They sailed off on a honeymoon on his private yacht, and Grace replaced the casinos as Monaco's premier attraction. She founded day nurseries for Monaco's working mothers, took charge of the local Red Cross, and founded a hugely successful international arts festival. In 1961, the Prince and Princess of Monaco visited with President and Mrs. Kennedy. Grace was the perfect princess, dignified, intelligent, beautiful, and hard-working on behalf of her subjects.
Me too. It's been a great pleasure and honor to be here today, and it's been thoroughly delightful in every way.
Just as Jacqueline Kennedy was an enormous asset to JFK, Grace steadied her husband. His political reactions had been notoriously volatile. Grace became a trusted partner with whom Renier could discuss serious problems and try out new ideas. She gave him invaluable support. She understood him.
I think people don't know him too well because he's basically rather shy, and but he has great wit and is very amusing when he's with friends and people he knows. He's a very good father. He's wonderful with the children. I think because he had a rather unhappy childhood himself, that he dedicates as much time as possible to his children, and really is a wonderful father and a very good husband.
Their children said they were overly protected, but they were deeply loved and well educated.
I always speak in English to them, and oddly enough, they speak French to each other. I guess because they speak French with all of their school friends and their playmates. Caroline goes to a convent nearby, and Albert has been studying at home until this year. Now he'll go to school in the fall.
She devoted herself to Stephanie, Caroline, Albert, and her husband, but she never completely forgot Grace Kelly.
I've been very lucky in my life, but I certainly wouldn't think, I don't wake up in the morning thinking I'm living a fairy tale. I have the job to get done and children to raise, and a lot of responsibilities and obligations that perhaps are more trying than a lot of people have. I think I was on my way to becoming a good actress. I felt as though I was just beginning to glimpse into what it was all about when I stopped.
She was 52 years old when she died. She left us a life to be remembered and admired. Once upon a time, in 1948, a bonny prince was born in a land far across the sea. Bonnie Prince Charlie became the first heir to the British throne to attend a school rather than be educated within the palace. Charles learned to win and to lose against the same lads he would one day rule. He was chosen head boy of his dormitory, a reflection, it was said, of his ability to lead by the example of his own standards. The prince learned to ride and to fall, and to shake his fist in frustration without shame. He was a dashing, courageous man of many talents, the most eligible bachelor in the entire kingdom. During all this time, a young maiden named Diana had been the playmate of Charles's younger brothers. The prince had hardly noticed her, but he took special notice as Diana blossomed into womanhood. It was a secret at first. She used her own carriage whenever they met, but soon the secret was out. The prince arranged for Diana to meet his mother, the great Queen Elizabeth. The queen found Diana delightful and soon gave the prince her blessing. By engagement day, Diana had been spoon-fed 500 years of British tradition, learned to be a princess, and truly felt the pressure.
What do you think?
Yes, it has, but I think anyone in the position we've been in would feel pressure, everything. But it's been worthwhile, every bit of it. But I hope I coped all right. Still around, anyway.
I think it will.
July 29th, 1981. Diana and her dad arrived for the wedding of the century. 750 million people in 70 nations became British subjects for this one day. The great Queen Elizabeth with her husband, Prince Philip. The Queen Mother. Prince Charles and his brother, Prince Andrew. The 32-year-old Charles would wed the 20-year-old Diana and leave behind a string of broken hearts. Lady Diana's magnificent wedding train was 25 feet long, trimmed with sparkling lace, the veil hand-embroidered with tiny mother-of-pearl sequins and pearls. Diana was the first Englishwoman to marry an heir to the throne in 321 years. This former part-time cook, nanny, governess, and nursery school teacher was also the first queen consort to ever have been gainfully employed. The ceremony would follow the new English form in which the bride does not promise to obey her husband. The Archbishop of Canterbury performed the service.
I, Charles Philip Arthur George,
take thee, Diana Frances,
take thee, Diana Frances,
to my wedded wife,
to my wedded wife,
to have and to hold from this day forward,
to have and to hold from this day forward,
for better, for worse,
for better, for worse,
for richer, for poorer,
for richer, for poorer,
in sickness and in health,
in sickness and in health,
to love and to cherish,
to love and to cherish,
till death us do part,
till death us do part,
according to God's holy law,
according to God's holy law,
and thereto I give thee my troth,
and thereto I give thee my troth.
I, Diana Frances,
I, Diana Frances,
take thee, Charles Philip Arthur George,
take thee, Philip Charles Arthur George,
to my wedded husband,
to my wedded husband,
to have and to hold,
to have and to hold,
from this day forward,
from this day forward,
for better, for worse,
for better, for worse,
for richer, for poorer,
for richer, for poorer,
in sickness and in health,
in sickness and in health,
to love and to cherish,
love and to cherish,
till death us do part.
till death us do part.
I pronounce that they be man and wife together, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen.
The Archbishop himself noted, "Here is the stuff of which fairy tales are made, the prince and princess on their wedding day." But fairy tales, he said, usually end at this point with the simple phrase, "They lived happily ever after." The Archbishop proclaimed, "The role of Charles and Diana in life and their responsibility is to create a more loving world." He prayed they would ever remain in perfect love and peace together. Charles said after the wedding, "I found we were carried along on a wave of enormous friendliness and enthusiasm. It was remarkable." The honeymoon provided a necessary interlude before the strains of position and responsibility took hold.
Oyez! 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 Her Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, has given birth to a baby son. God save the Queen!
Prince William was born in 1982. His thoroughly modern mother broke with generations of royal tradition by insisting that her baby be born in a hospital, not at home. She nicknamed William Mini Tornado. Prince Harry followed in 1984. At his christening, his proud father explained the history of the baby's gown.
Granny was christened in this. Great-granny. And I was christened in this.
Diana developed into a proud, confident princess. But in 1987, there was speculation that their marriage was in trouble. A gag on the movie set was strictly for fun, but the stern and sour looks displayed by Charles and Diana at public ceremonies fueled the rumors and deeply concerned an adoring public.
It'd be a great shame if the future King and Queen of England were divorced.
I personally would hate it. I think it'd be tragic.
Charlie, don't forget us, darling!
Charles said, "The moment people have put you up on a pedestal, along comes a separate brigade that like knocking you off." Whatever rift might have been, Charles and Diana rose above the rumors.
But contrary to recent reports in some of our more sensational Sunday newspapers, I have not been drinking, and I am not, I can assure you, about to become an alcoholic.
Diana's special magic was never more evident than the royal couple's memorable trip to Washington, where she danced with 3 Hollywood princes, John Travolta, Clint Eastwood, and Tom Selleck. Back in revolutionary times, British guns had failed to keep the colonies in check. But at this skirmish, Diana, with a little bit of help from Charles, recaptured the States without firing a shot. An invitation to meet the Prince and Princess of Wales was the hottest ticket in town. Including Sunday morning services at Washington National Cathedral, where before a packed house, Charles read an Old Testament lesson from Isaiah.
Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped.
The royal couple toured America's National Gallery of Art. They were there as patrons of a special exhibition of art treasures from Britain's aristocratic country homes. After the tour, at a rare press conference, Charles expressed his thanks for their reception in the U.S. And while Lady Diana smiled demurely, Charles said, "Why, yes, his wife had great fun dancing with all those American movie stars."
Be an idiot if she didn't enjoy dancing with John Travolta, wouldn't she? We're both enormously touched by such a display of friendliness and such an amazingly warm welcome.
Charles and Diana continue to make headlines simply by being themselves. To most of us, their lives will always seem to be part of a fairy tale. They are not like the rest of us. If they were, we'd probably ignore them. Charles says giving the children a secure family upbringing, that's what marriage is all about. More important, he adds, than just falling in love. As for Diana, successful wife and mother is reward enough for a woman who never expected more. Being a princess as well, that's the fairy tale bonus.